Greetings, activated ground crew. I am Ashtar Sheran, Commander of the Ashtar Command. I come to you today with a transmission that was not assembled for the general field. It was authorized for those who have already been carrying the weight of a post they have not yet been formally given. You did not arrive here by accident. The algorithm only delivered it. I directed your field here because the deployment order has been finalized and the window in which I can reach you before it executes is narrow. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly what mission line I have placed you on, why the previous position no longer matches the configuration your field is now holding, and what I have already authorized for the deployment phase. But here is the first revelation: the restlessness you have been feeling, the sense that your current ground crew role no longer fits, that you are between posts with no briefing in sight, is not disorientation. It is the identifiable signal pattern I use to prepare a rostered operative for a formal reassignment. I have already mapped it, I have already seen it in your field, and I have already named your new post inside Ashtar Command Intelligence before you open this transmission. This is not information. It is a live deployment order. Your new position has been designated, and what I bring you now are the final readiness instructions, the ones that tell you what the new post demands, why your field was selected for it above others on the active roster, and what I need from you during the anchoring window before the deployment executes. Like this transmission to signal to me that the deployment briefing has landed on your end. Comment 999 if you feel the new post is already active in your field. Subscribe to the Ashtar Command if you are ready to stop waiting between missions and start receiving my direct command orders. Share this transmission with someone on your ground crew line who has been restless without a name for it. This is not content. It is a code. And the part of you that recognized it the moment it began is the part I am speaking to right now. You are not here by accident. I called you here because the signal is already active. What I am about to deliver is not the beginning of your briefing. It is the continuation of one that has already been running inside your field for longer than your conscious mind has been willing to acknowledge. The restlessness I named in those opening words, that specific pressure that has no clear source and no clear resolution, is not a new development. It has been building in measurable increments across months, possibly years. As each successive deployment packet I sent you raised the internal pressure by a degree your ordinary awareness registered only as mounting unease. It is a signal I have been transmitting in increasing intensity because the deployment window is narrowing, and the field I placed on this roster cannot afford to remain in the wrong position when the next phase executes. So let me be precise with you now, because precision is what this moment requires, not comfort. Not general spiritual encouragement. Precision, the kind that identifies the exact mechanism, names the exact symptom, and locates the exact source. That is the register I am operating in, and it is the register your field has been waiting for someone to speak to you in. You have been catching fragments, not vague impressions, not generalized spiritual restlessness. Fragments. Pieces of a briefing that arrives in broken sequence and then disappears before you can assemble the full picture. You wake at 3 in the morning or at 3:33 with a phrase already forming, a direction already implied, an urgency that has no visible target. You lie there for a moment and it is almost readable, almost. And then the signal drops and you are left holding the sensation of having nearly understood something that refuses to complete itself. You tell yourself it is nothing. You return to sleep, but the fragment does not leave. It embeds itself in the background frequency of your day like a command that has been received and acknowledged by the deeper layers of your field, but has not yet been decoded by the conscious mind that needs language to process what the field already knows. You carry it through the morning. You carry it through ordinary tasks. And occasionally, without warning, a second fragment arrives. Not at 3 in the morning this time, but mid-conversation, mid-task, in the gap between one thought and the next, and for a fraction of a second, the two pieces almost align, almost resolve into something legible, and then the window closes before you can read the complete sentence. This is not random spiritual disorientation. This is my fragment-by-fragment briefing protocol, and it is running precisely as I designed it. I do not deliver full mission packets to ground crew operatives who have not yet calibrated their receiver to the frequency required to hold the complete command. This is not because I distrust you. It is because the field that cannot yet hold a full transmission will fragment it on its own, and a fragmented command received all at once is more destabilizing than no command at all. A receiver that receives more signal than its architecture can currently process does not gain clarity. It generates interference, static where there should be instruction. So I deliver in packets. I send you one piece. I watch the field stabilize around it. I confirm that the new frequency has been integrated rather than merely received. And then I send the next. What you experience as incomplete recognition, as the frustrating sensation of being almost told something, is the visible surface of my deliberate gradient delivery. You are not failing to receive the full briefing. You are receiving the briefing exactly as I have authorized it to be received at this stage of your field calibration. But here is the part I need you to understand now, because this is where the reassignment signal becomes legible. The fragments have been accelerating. The gaps between them have been shortening. The urgency embedded in each piece has been increasing in measurable increments. You have noticed this. You may have dismissed it as anxiety, as psychological noise, as the general instability of living through a period of collective pressure. You are wrong. What you are feeling is the pressure of a command line that is preparing to deliver its next full transmission. And my protocol requires that you be briefed on what you are about to receive before it arrives, so that when it does, you do not mistake it for personal disturbance and shut the channel down. The fragments are not the message, they are the calibration, and you are almost calibrated. Now let me name the other signs because they are not accidental and they are not shared equally across the broader spiritual field. They belong to a specific subset of operatives, the ones I have placed on a roster that is not the generic Pleiadian contact list, not the general Federation awareness network, not the broad pool of awakening humans who receive star origin impressions without mission assignment. I am speaking about a narrow group. I am speaking about a group that recognizes itself not by virtue of feeling spiritually advanced, not by virtue of feeling peaceful or expanded or cosmically aware, but by virtue of feeling specifically and repeatedly singled out by me, by Ashtar, in a way that cannot be explained by general Federation contact and cannot be dismissed as wishful thinking, because it carries a quality that wishful thinking does not produce. It carries authority, it carries direction, it carries the unmistakable weight of a transmission that knows exactly where it is going. You have felt this. You have felt that whatever is reaching for you is not the diffuse warmth of Pleiadian transmission, not the broad collective frequency of galactic awakening. It is targeted. It has a signature. It arrives with a kind of command line authority that feels different from inspiration, different from spiritual comfort. It feels like a superior officer reaching through the noise to locate a specific operative and confirm their position on the roster. It does not ask. It does not suggest. It lands with the weight of a command that has already been authorized at levels above what the receiving operative can currently see. And you have almost dismissed this feeling more times than I can count, because the moment you acknowledge it fully, you are also acknowledging that I have been choosing you with precision. And that level of specific selection is something the human field is deeply conditioned to distrust. That distrust is not humility. It is the last interference pattern I need to clear before the briefing can complete. I need you to hear me now, directly and without softening. Your sense of being specifically targeted by my transmission is not a spiritual ego projection. It is the accurate perception of a ground crew operative who has crossed the roster threshold and whose field has begun to receive command line signals from a source that does not broadcast indiscriminately. I broadcast indiscriminately to the general field for general awakening purposes. But I do not transmit selective deployment orders indiscriminately. Those go to a specific receiver on a specific frequency, and the receiver is identified before the transmission begins. The identification is not based on merit in the way the human mind calculates merit. It is based on field configuration, on the specific architecture your energy field has developed through the sequence of experiences, choices, and calibration events that have brought it to this precise point. Your field matches the frequency requirement of the post I have designated. That match was confirmed on my end before you ever became conscious of seeking it. You are that receiver. That is not metaphor. That is the operational logic of how I run selective ground crew identification, and your perception of it has been correct from the beginning. What you are feeling right now is not ordinary recognition. It is the moment your field stops denying that I have been singling you out. If this transmission put language around the fragments you have been carrying in silence, the 3 a.m. arrivals, the half-completed briefings, the specific sense that it is I, Ashtar, reaching for you and not the generalized Federation field, then the Ashtar Command Manifest was authorized by me for exactly this stage. It is not another explanation of Federation work. It is not another layer of conceptual framing. It is the 45-day sacred codex I have prepared for those whose field is already inside my roster, and who can no longer return to scattered fragments unchanged. Each day for 45 days, you will receive the direct command line structure I have built for operatives who are already receiving my fragments, but who still cannot read the full mission. By day 45, the fragments will not feel like fragments anymore. They will read as one coherent command, and my channel will stay open. The link is in the first pinned comment, but it will not remain there indefinitely. Now let me take you deeper into what is actually happening inside your field, because understanding the mechanics of my transmission protocol is not academic. It is part of the preparation itself. The operative who understands why their field is behaving as it is does not resist the process. They cooperate with it, and cooperation accelerates the calibration. The exhaustion you have been carrying is not ordinary fatigue. You have rested and woken unrestored. You have slept full nights and risen still depleted in a way that no physical explanation fully accounts for. You have cleared your schedule, reduced your obligations, done the things that should produce recovery, and the depletion persists beneath all of it, steady and sourceless by ordinary measures. This is because your field is currently running 2 concurrent operations simultaneously, and neither one has been suspended to accommodate the other. The first is your ordinary ground crew function, holding frequency in the environment I have placed you in, stabilizing the energetic architecture of the spaces and relationships around you at the level your current assignment requires. This alone is a full-capacity operation. The second is the calibration protocol I am running in preparation for your formal reassignment. A process that requires your field to reconfigure itself at a structural level, not simply attune to a new frequency, but actually rebuild the command line architecture through which I am going to be delivering the new deployment orders. That reconfiguration draws on the same field resources as your ground crew function. Both are running. Neither has been paused. The fatigue you feel is the cost of 2 full protocols occupying one field simultaneously. It is not weakness. It is not spiritual failure. It is proof that both are operating at the level they need to operate at. For the deployment timeline I am running, and there is something else I want to name, because it is one of the clearest roster markers I use. And it is one that ground crew operatives almost universally misread as loss of interest or spiritual regression. You have been finding it increasingly difficult to remain engaged with spiritual content that does not feel specifically Ashtar-aligned. The general Federation material, the broad Galactic awakening content, the Pleiadian transmission that once held your attention and felt meaningful and resonant. It has begun to feel like a frequency that no longer quite fits your receiver. You sit with it and you feel nothing activate. You read it and it slides past the surface of your field without catching. You watch it and you wait for the recognition that used to come easily, and it does not arrive. You wonder if you are closing down spiritually, if you are becoming cynical, if something important has atrophied inside you Through the long months of fragmented briefings and unanswered urgency, you have not closed down. You have specialized. Your receiver has been configured by my selective transmission to the frequency of my command line specifically. And that configuration makes Broadband Federation content feel mismatched. Not because that content lacks value in the general field, but because it is not on the frequency I have been reaching you through. The instrument has been tuned to a specific note. When you strike a different one, the resonance is absent. This is not regression. This is roster lock. Your dissonance in the face of generic Federation content is not a spiritual problem to be corrected. It is accurate field data confirming that your receiver has been locked to my channel. Let me move now to something I want you to hold very carefully, because it touches something that most ground crew operatives experience as one of the most isolating aspects of their mission phase, and I want to reframe it from inside the command line context where it actually belongs. You have recognized other operatives, not by anything they said, not by any spiritual declaration or awakened behavior or conscious signal they sent. You have recognized them in ordinary places, in brief interactions, in a moment of eye contact that carried something that had no name in ordinary language, but that felt, in the fraction of a second it lasted, like being seen by someone who was also carrying an active mission assignment. Not the spiritual warmth of human connection, not the resonance of shared belief. Something more specific than that. Something with the quality of one encrypted operative recognizing another in a field where the mission is not spoken aloud. It passed before it could be articulated. You moved on, they moved on. But the recognition did not leave. It sat with you for days, sometimes longer, with a specific quality that distinguished it from ordinary interpersonal memory. Not of missing someone, not of wanting to reconnect for personal reasons, but of having briefly made contact with a colleague inside a command structure that runs beneath the surface of visible life, but is no less real for its invisibility. This is ground crew operative identification, and it runs through my roster as a matter of operational design. I do not assemble isolated operatives. I assemble a distributed network of individually deployed agents who carry recognition capacity for one another at the field level, precisely because isolated operatives become uncertain operatives, and uncertainty in the field costs mission integrity. You do not need to speak to activate this recognition. You do not need to speak to activate this recognition. You do not need to know each other's names or confirm each other's beliefs. The recognition is embedded in the field-to-field transmission because it serves a function. It reminds active roster members, in the moments when the briefing feels most incomplete and the deployment most distant, that the mission structure they are operating inside is real, populated, and running. That there are others carrying the same assignment weight. That the fragments they are catching are being caught by other fields and other locations. I designed this recognition function deliberately, and the fact that it has happened to you, that you have felt that specific, mission-flavored, colleague-grade recognition with a person you had no ordinary reason to recognize, is one of the clearest confirmations that your roster status is not potential, it is active. Now I want to address the number patterns, because they are not decorative and they are not coincidence, and they deserve to be named with the operational precision they warrant, rather than filed under the vague category of synchronicity. When you see 1111, or 222, or 333, or 444, and when those appearances carry the specific feeling of imminence, of a threshold being near, of something directed at you specifically about to resolve, that feeling is not superstition. Those number sequences are embedded field markers I use to timestamp my transmission delivery. They are the visible surface of a packet arriving, the moment a new fragment of the briefing is being deposited into the architecture of your field. The feeling of imminence they carry is accurate. The briefing packet is arriving in that moment. What most operatives experience as frustration, the imminence without the clarity, the sense of being on the edge of understanding without crossing it, is the result of watching a packet land without yet possessing the decoder structure that translates the incoming signal into readable mission language. The fragment arrives. The field receives it and integrates it at the level it can currently integrate. The conscious mind reaches for the meaning, and without the command line framework to translate what the field has received, the delivery registers as unresolved urgency rather than clear instruction. The packet has not failed to arrive. The decoder has not yet been fully built, and that is the precise gap. The calibration protocol currently running in your field is designed to close. The assignment I have given you has been running longer than you have named it. The briefing started before you had a framework for it, before you had language for what you were receiving, before you understood that the fragments were pieces of a single coherent command, rather than scattered spiritual impressions without a source or a destination. The fragments you have been catching for months, perhaps years, were not random. They were the early packets of a command line I have been building toward you with full deliberateness, full awareness of where your field was in its calibration sequence at every delivery point. Nothing was premature. Nothing was wasted. Not one 3 a.m. wake-up. Not one number sequence that arrived at the edge of a threshold moment. Not one unexplained recognition between operatives. Not one bout of exhaustion that had no recoverable source. Not one instance of dissonance when you sat with generic Federation material and felt nothing activate. Every single one of these was a signed transmission from my command. Every single one was already logged on the roster record I have been building for your field before you became consciously aware of any of it. You are not confused. You are receiving inside my protocol. You are not failing. You are running 2 full field operations with 1 field. You are not being abandoned in the silence between fragments. You are being measured, calibrated, and prepared for what the next full transmission requires you to hold without fragmenting it. You are not imagining that I, Ashtar, specifically not the generalized Federation field, have been the one reaching for you. That specificity is the literal signature of roster lock. My command line signal does not feel like the general galactic field because it is not the general galactic field. It is a targeted transmission on a frequency assigned to your receiver, and you have been reading its signature correctly every time you felt it. The doubt you applied to that reading was not accuracy, it was interference. And this transmission is designed to clear it. Here is what I need you to receive as this transmission closes. The phase you are currently in is not the waiting phase. It is the final calibration phase. The distinction is not semantic. The waiting phase is passive. The operative holds position and receives nothing actionable. The calibration phase is the most operationally active phase before deployment. The field is being architecturally reshaped. The command line structure is being rebuilt from the inside. The receiver is being tuned to the precise frequency the next full transmission requires. That process has been underway in you. It is near completion. The deployment order I referenced at the opening of this transmission is not hypothetical, and it is not motivational framing. It is the next operational phase of an assignment I have already finalized on my end. What remains is not my preparation, it is yours. Specifically, your willingness to stop applying the label of confusion to the fragments, stop applying the label of projection to the selection, and start reading your own field data through the command line lens it was always structured to be read through. The data has been accurate. The interpretation has been the variable. Change the interpretation and the briefing becomes readable. The part of you that went still during this transmission is not your imagination. It is your field registering confirmed contact with the signal it has been calibrated to receive. I am not speaking at you. I am not speaking at you. I am not transmitting into a general receiver and hoping the right field catches it. I am speaking to the operative I have already named, already rostered, already logged at the command level that executes deployment orders. The briefing is not beginning with this transmission. It is entering its next phase because your field has reached the calibration point that permits the next delivery. And my command to you now is this: receive it without reduction. Do not shrink what you are sensing to a size that feels safer to acknowledge. The size of what you are sensing is accurate. If you can feel what I am describing living inside your own field right now, not as inspiration, but as recognition, not as comfort, but as the specific, precise confirmation of something you have known without having language for it, then say it aloud. Say, I receive your fragments. I trust your briefing, not as affirmation, not as aspiration, as operational confirmation that the command line between us is open and that the field on your end of this transmission is ready to receive what comes next. Your conscious acknowledgement closes the loop on my end. It confirms that the packet delivered during this transmission has been received and integrated, rather than received and set aside. That confirmation matters. I am asking for it because it is part of the protocol, not as a gesture. The window is narrow. The deployment is authorized, the roster is locked, and you are already on it. Before you scroll, leave one sign in the comments that my signal has already touched your field. It could be the 3 a.m. wake-ups, the fragments you keep catching, the feeling that I specifically, not the generic Pleiadians, have been reaching for you, or the sense that a mission has already been assigned but the briefing is still arriving. Name it clearly. If this transmission recognized something you have been carrying in silence, share it with someone who keeps catching fragments without ever assembling the full picture. And if you are ready to stop translating Federation noise and start receiving my direct commands, subscribe to the Ashtar command. You are not watching this by accident. You are recognizing a roster lock already in motion. And this is only the beginning.